Okay, so we have a very basic unit here on simple basic finance information. All right. So first off, there's two kinds of interest: simple and compound. Okay. All right. So simple and compound interest. Simple interest is what it sounds like. It's very simple. It's a very simple formula. It's a simple calculation. Compound is more complicated. If you think about a compound fracture, it means we have more than one break. You broke the bone in more than one place. Compound means there's more going on, and we'll get to that in section 2. All right. So this right here is just different ways you can invest money and make money. Okay. Some of these are simple. Some of these are compound. It's just different ways to make money. All right. So first we're starting with simple interest. You've seen this formula probably, I think, even back in Algebra 1, maybe before that. It's a very basic formula. I equals PRT, I party, okay? It's just a simple formula. I equals PRT. I, clearly the amount of interest you make. P is the principal. Principal is the amount of money you're starting with. Whatever you're investing, or even if it's car loan, whatever you're borrowing, the amount you're borrowing or investing is the principal. That's what you're starting with, okay? It'll also be called present value as opposed to future value. All right, R is the annual interest rate, okay, as a decimal, very important. So let's talk about a few things here. If we have, like a credit card that's 22%, insane amount, you got to think about where the decimal is on 22 because we don't see the decimal, okay? If you think about if we had 22.7, the decimal would be right there. Well, guess what? The decimal is still there. We just don't write it if there's no more numbers after it. So 22%, when we change to a decimal, we move 2 places to the left. 1, 2, that's 0.22. Not too complicated, but I still see it all the time. I just saw it last week on the Algebra 2 test. I see a lot of people going decimal happy and doing 0.022. Very common mistake. You just do it too many times or too few times. 2.2. It's 2 places to the left. So we're just going to move it 2 places. All right. But if we have something like 7%, again, it's still here. But when we move it 2 places, we need to fill in that little spot. We have a little egg holder, put in your egg, 0.07. Now, let's go up to this one I did before. It's still 2 places. But instead of just 2.2, now it would be 0.227. You keep the numbers. You don't throw them away. All right? So just a little quick review on converting. And then T is time in years. Now, example 1. You deposit $10,000. All right? That is your, big P. That's your principal right there. The amount of money you're putting in, that's your principal. All right? Here's your rate. I like to just right here remind myself and just put it right there. Okay? 5% is 0.05 because, again, we move it 2 places to the left. A very common mistake with 5% is to say 0.5. And 0.5 is 50%. It's half. Okay? We don't want that. It's 0.05. And you leave the money in there for 10 years. That's your time. How much do you have? Okay? Now be careful. Look at what the question's asking you. It's not asking you for your interest. It's asking you how much money you have. This is the future value. Okay? So you've got to look and see what the question is. If it said how much interest do you earn, totally different question. Now we're going to use that formula, I equals PRT, and just fill in our numbers. We know this is $1,000. We know our rate is 0.05, and we know our time is 10 years. That's going to give us the amount of interest. When you calculate that, you will get $500. And again, depending on the question, that might be the answer. That might be where you stop. If it said, how much interest will you earn in 10 years? What's the total amount of interest you earn? Boom, 500, done, stop. But this asks, how much do you have? It's asking for that future value. So you need to take this and add it to your original investment, and your answer is $1,500. So the math's not hard. You just got to pay attention to what the question is being asked. Because sometimes you'll be asked for one, the interest, sometimes you'll be asked for the future value. Now, there is a quicker way of getting to that problem. Okay? So remember, future value is the principal plus the interest. Okay? So here's the formula. I think this is kind of silly. I don't know why it's in there, because we don't use x's for times once we get into Algebra 1. We just don't do that. Okay? Once we put our adult pants and get into Algebra 1, we don't use x's anymore because x is a variable. So this means principal times, in parentheses, 1 plus r times t. And now we have a new letter, A, for future value. Okay? And then everything else is still the same. So let's go back to that previous problem we had. Our future value is going to be the $1,000 times 1 plus rate times time. So that is $1,500, which we already knew, but it gets you there in one step. So it's not like getting the interest and adding it is hard, but if you know you're going for the future value, you can just do this first. And this one right here, this one represents your principal. That's what this formula is. The one says, here's your starting principal of 1,000 plus this is your interest, basically. It's doing it all in one fell swoop. It's just adding the principal plus the accrued interest all together in one step. Okay? So example number 2. You put $600 at a bank for 6 months at a simple annual rate of 4.9%. How much interest will you earn? Again, this time it is asking for the interest. So we're going to do the IPRT method. But there's a trick in this one. My principal is $600. Whoops. My rate, again, remember, we move it 2 places to the left, so that's 0.049. And then the trick here is time. Now, time is always given in years. We have 6 months. Okay? That's half a year. So this is really 6 out of 12, which is 0.5 or 1/2. So the most common mistake, I'll tell you right now, the most common mistake is going to put the 6 right there. And that's why I'm writing a note. It's not 6. The time is not 6. If you put 6 in there for time, you are saying it was invested for 6 years. Because time is always in terms of years. If we're doing less than a year, we got to figure out the fraction of the decimal for that amount of time. It's like 3 months, okay? 3 out of 12. 4 months, 4 out of 12. You change it to a decimal or leave it as a fraction. Okay? So to everybody, you type in your calculator, you do 600 times 0.049 times 0.5. And you earn, I don't know why I said that, $14.70. And remember, when your calculator tells you 14.7, this is money. We need 2 spots, so you need to include that 0 there. So how much will you have at the end of 6 months? Well, 600 plus $14.70 leaves you with a grand total of $1,614.70. Now, we all know there's 365 days in a year. 366 if it's a leap year. But ordinary number of days, and this all has to do with banks. Okay? The banks use 360. Now, if you want to take a guess as to whether the 360 is better for you or the banks, it doesn't take much thinking. It's better for the banks. This is for them, okay? And 1 month is 30 days, okay? So obviously there's months with 31 days, there's months with 28 or 29 in a leap year, but they use this for a month. So to make things, it is easier for calculation, they use 360 for a year and 30 for a month, okay? But we will always use this in this unit, okay? So you had to borrow $850, all right, to buy Christmas gifts at a simple interest rate of 12%. What is the future value of the loan? Now, this is a loan, but it doesn't matter. You're borrowing money, okay? But it says future value, so we're going to save ourselves time and do the shortcut. So we're going to use the P1 plus RT formula. So our money we're starting with is $850. Times 1 plus our rate, which again, we move the decimal 2 places to the left, that's 0.12, times time. And time in this case is 90 days out of 360 days. Which, you might notice that, well, the zeros cancel. 9 goes into 36 4 times. 90 over 360 is the fraction 1/4, which is also the decimal 0.25, which is probably easier for us to use with a calculator. So we're going to do that. Now remember, when you're doing this, if you're doing it all in one step, you gotta be careful because it's going to want to multiply first, which is math, okay? I personally like to do that first and then add 1, then multiply by 850, but you can do whatever way is comfortable for you, all right? And when you type this in the calculator, you will get $875.50. Again, the calculator is going to tell you 875.5. You got to make sure you remember to add that 0. Now, the nice thing about these calculators is they do follow the rules of operation. So if you type in 850, you've got to remember to do the parentheses. If you're going to do this all in one fell swoop, and then you just type in 1 plus 0.12, hit the times button on your calculator, 0.25, make sure you close your parentheses. It will give you this if you enter it all in one fell swoop. But that's it.